everyone. I'm Rachel Tessman from StampYourArtOut.com. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from Andover, Minnesota in the US, and today I'd like to share with you some outside-the-box ideas that I created with the contents of the May 2020 Paper Pumpkin Kit from Stampin' Up! Titled A Kit in Color. These monthly kits come straight to my mailbox each month and contain everything I need to make fun, creative paper crafting cards and projects. This month's kit contains supplies to make 8 4¼ by 5½ inch and 4 3½ by 5 inch colorful and cheerful greeting cards. The box also contains a publication with directions, tips, photos, details about the kit, a link to a how-to video to help guide me in assembling, and 2 items that I can use over and over again, even after the consumables in my kit are used up. This Misty Moonlight Mini Ink Pad, which is a new color debuting June 3rd in the 2020-21 annual catalog, and this exclusive photopolymer stamp set. A clear block, which was included free with my first kit for mounting and using my stamps, and my scissors are the only extra supplies that I really need to provide. Paper Pumpkin kits are just $22 plus tax per month in the US. Shipping is included. You control which months you get your kits, and there's no commitment or obligation. These kits are produced through Stampin' Up!, so the colors, images, and supplies always coordinate with many other Stampin' Up! Products. I'll be using some of these as I share my alternate projects. You can find these items listed below and linked to my online store. You can also look below for links to learning more about Paper Pumpkin kits, starting your subscription through me so I can spoil you with extra exclusive ideas, gifts, and prizes, joining my Paper Pumpkin fan club on Facebook where you can see even more alternate project ideas shared daily, and if you're watching my video on YouTube, a link to my website where I've shared photos of the projects I'll be sharing today. If you're looking for ideas for past kits, visit my website at StampYourArtOut.com. Click on Paper Pumpkin in the top menu, then choose Recent or Older Posts. Since March of 2013, when Paper Pumpkin first began, I've been creating and sharing alternate projects so Paper Pumpkin subscribers can see that there are so many more possibilities, so many more options with those kit supplies. And that's what I'll be doing in this video. I'm excited to create with you, so let's get started. I'm super excited about this kit because I love bright colors and because this kit introduces us to 4 of the 5 new 2020 through 22 in colors: Misty Moonlight, Bumblebee, Magenta Madness, and Just Jade. For demonstration purposes, I usually use the larger version of the ink pad color, but I don't have that yet, so I'll be using the mini pad that comes in the kit. I also substitute in Stampin' Up's ergonomic clear blocks and my adhesives that I have here. But again, the clear block that comes free in your first kit and the adhesives that come in each kit are sufficient for most of the alternates that you may create. I have 4 cards planned for you and a scrapbook page layout, so we got to get started right away. So this is the 5th in color that's new. This is cinnamon cider, and it is a yummy brown. It's kind of like early espresso where you could eat it. This is very chocolatey. This is just a yummy brown. These are a couple of our other browns that we have, soft suede and crumb cake. And for this card, which is going to be a s'more, I just could not see using these as the graham cracker because they're just not yummy looking browns to me, but this one is. Now it's a little on the orangey side, but it definitely is more edible looking, so we're gonna go with this. This is gonna be our graham cracker. This is gonna be our chocolate, and my son contributed the idea of using the cloud in the kit for the marshmallow that's oozing out the sides. So the first thing, well actually let me tell you what else I'm using. I'm gonna use early espresso, cinnamon cider, Whisper White cardstock, the trimmer of course, every time, the Versamark ink pad which does tone-on-tone color, and then we're also going to bring in the fine tip glue pen, which I haven't used in a while, but this is a great basic tool to have. It's an adhesive, but it also does some fun stuff on the surface of your projects. So we'll start with our Whisper White card stock, and we're going to cut our card. You know what, I think we'll do a vertical one. So we're going to cut it this way, the long way, at 4¼ inches, which is half of 8.5 inches wide. So this could make another card. We'll set that aside. Then we'll lift this up and we'll turn it this direction and come into the 5.5 inch mark and use our scoring blade to put a crease into our base of our card. Now, we could use a card base that's in the kit already, but I have other plans for this side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim off this portion. We're going to use 4 inches of that. And then we'll use 5.25 inches of this. So it's 5.25 by 4. But before we continue on, I am going to punch this daisy as far in as I can go, because we'll be using that green for another card. So we'll set that aside. And now we don't have to worry about owning some green cardstock for that card. So here's our layer that's going to go on the front of our Whisper White card. We're going to cover that up. So now we need to make our graham cracker. And for the graham cracker, I want a square that is 3.125 inches wide by 3.125 inches wide. And we'll just do one because we're gonna show this as an aerial or top view. And then we'll need some of this for our chocolate, and I'm not sure how much of that we're going to need yet, so we'll just put that off to the side, and then we'll have our marshmallow oozing out, okay? So let's start with our Versamark ink pad and our cinnamon cider cardstock. We'll grab a couple of our stamps from the kit, Oh Happy Day, and then this one here that makes little X's. So I'm just putting them upside down on my table, and I'm grabbing my clear block, and I'm just gonna grab it like that, grab the stamp like that. And I like to put my stamps on at an angle so I'm not relying on the sides of my blocks when I'm stamping. I look directly at my stamp that way. In fact, you know what? I'm gonna put this on a larger block because I'll be able to see beyond it a little bit more. Okay, so there's that image, and then this one we'll do the same thing. So now we've got our stamps mounted. We'll use our Versamark ink pad. And by the way, when you get a Versamark ink pad, it does get a little bit of dust. It attracts dust because it's a sticky ink. So it takes a while to dry. Great for doing heat embossing, if you know what that is. So just keep that in mind, that after you've stamped it, you don't want to touch the paper for a while if you're not embossing with it, because you want it to soak in and dry. But it is going to do a tone-on-tone effect. So we'll go ahead and grab this layer here, and we're going to stamp that towards the bottom. You want to make sure you're pressing evenly. And we're just going to let that sit for a minute, and that is going to soak in, and it's going to deepen the colors on our cardstock here. Now, I've told you this in the past, I create as I go. I have a vision, and this time it didn't work. It's not deepening the cardstock color because this is a different type of cardstock. We get our cardstock, it's a different form of the cardstock that we usually have in our stock. So this is a kit cardstock piece. We're not gonna worry about that. We're gonna do something different. So it is not deepening that color very well. We're gonna cut a strip of Early Espresso cardstock that is 5/8 of an inch wide. And oh dear, sometimes that happens. And we're gonna go ahead and ink this stamp up again and stamp it off to the right-hand side. Okay, now you're seeing the effect. It's probably because this cardstock is dyed all the way through. So you can see the Oh Happy Day is now darkening that cardstock to show us that sentiment. We're going to go ahead now and we're going to do the same thing with this stamp image. We're going to stamp it so that it is forming a little pattern going around our cinnamon cider. Say that 10 times fast, I dare you. Cardstock. We're going to do that all the way around. And through the middle. And normally, you know, you have graham crackers that have little holes in them. Well, this is just a different little pattern that we have for this cracker. So we've got our Oh Happy Day, which is going to cover up where we stamped on here. That's going to go there. we're going to put our cracker going this way with some yummy marshmallow coming out the sides. So let's go ahead and start working on that. So now that I've figured out where my marshmallows are going to stick out, I can go ahead and work with this piece here. This is going to be little chocolate chunks that are kind of sticking out, but we want to make them glossy. We want them to look shiny and yummy. So we're going to bring in our grid paper. This is our floral grid paper. We have all kinds of grid paper. This is one of my favorites. The flip side of mine, it does have a little decoration on it, but that's because I got it at an event. But the floral paper that you get in the online store, see, it's huge, isn't it? That paper just is white on the other side, just so that you know. Okay, so for this, we're going to use the fine tip glue. Now the fine tip glue comes with this fine tip, and you want to lay your finger on the back side of it and then slide the needle back into the hole when you're done to close it. That way you can keep the opening open when it's time to use it again. So when you unscrew it and pull it out, just know that this is the area where the glue is going to come out. So let's go ahead and just start adding that. And I let it dry for a few hours, and I came back to it, and now it's got this shiny coat on it. So we're going to cut that just with our scissors by hand. We're going to cut a couple pieces off here. So we've got some shiny pieces of chocolate. Now again, I haven't put the marshmallow completely down, so I could either do it on top or on bottom. And I can just have like little corners of it sticking out. I think I might do it on top. Something like that. So now we just have to do some glue. I love the shininess of it. It's so yummy. So I decided to give it the illusion that it was one complete square, which makes sense, right? So now we have our s'more cookie on top of our Oh Happy Day card. Blank on the inside. You could use it for anything. You could use it for an invitation to come and sit 6 feet apart around a campfire and make some s'mores. Anyways, it's super cute and has a lot to do with summer. I might adjust a couple of these, but anyways, got the idea, right? I decided that this graham cracker needed a little dimension, so we just sponged some of that Versamark ink all the way around the edges. And now we'll go ahead and take our dimensionals and put them on top. Now you can see what it looks like underneath the card. It's kind of a mess. And there's our finished s'more card. Isn't that fun? For my next card, I'll be using these pieces from the kit. So I'll use that other half of the card base, the rainbow layer, and then this label. We'll also bring in a sponge, another sponge, with the Tuxedo Memento ink pad. We're going to use a retiring punch, the 1/2 inch circle punch, because it's the perfect size, a bone folder, the other half of the Whisper White cardstock, and then we're bringing in this specialty paper. It's called the Forever Gold Specialty Designer paper. It is like just under 10 inches by 10 inches, and it's got these little sections that you can punch out and use as embellishments on your cards or layers on your cards. And there's another kind of sheet that goes with it too. It's going to be beautiful. It's coming June 3rd, so we'll be using a portion of that for this card. And we'll start by sponging the whole surface of this piece. So we're obviously not going to use it as a sentiment layer. It will be all black. The nice thing with sponging versus just, you know, laying it upside down on the ink pad and rubbing is that you can get this lightness on the sides. You can do shading with it. We're giving it a little bit of a curve because we want it to lay right on our card. And now I'm going to go wash my hands. For this layer, we're going to cut it just a little bit smaller. We're going to cut it to 4 1/8 inches by 5 3/8. So we have a slightly smaller white border going around the edges this time. And I've already scored my white base, so I'll bring that in so you can see now it's just a slightly larger piece so that we have less white all the way around. This is going to become a little pot for a pot of gold, and we're going to add the rainbow. And then I've already punched out a bunch of these little 1/2-inch circles from that gold sheet, and we'll just add those to the underneath portion of the pot. So let's stamp on the inside. Let's stamp our sentiment, and then we can assemble the front. We're going to put that same sentiment on the inside, oh happy day, because yes, wouldn't it be great if we had a pot of gold? All right, so that'll go here. And this will get added to the front. So you can see the gold is at varying depths on the card too. Some of them I put right up against the inside edge of the pot. One I have on a dimensional back here, and then 3 of them I have completely pressed it flat against the back side of the card. So it's a very fun card. This would be great for like a birthday or something like that, or if somebody gets a new job. Pot of gold, hello, money is coming in, oh happy day. So, all right, let's do the next card. This third card is going to be a really fun look. I have not made a finished one yet, so hopefully it'll work out. We're going to use the Purple Posy cardstock. You could use Whisper White, but I think to have a contrast between a flower accent that we're going to add and the base would be a great idea. So we're going to go with this light purple called Purple Posy. We'll need a pencil and a ruler for marking on our quote-unquote designer paper. I've also got one of the gold pieces from that Forever Gold Designer Series paper, and we're going to cut our cardstock, our 8.5 by 11 cardstock, at the 5.5 inch mark, and then we'll score it at 4 1/4. So this is opposite of what we did with our first couple cards. We're cutting it in half the opposite way so that our card folds open this way. Now you could do it, it doesn't matter. You could do it the other way if you'd like to too. Let's grab our bone folder. Bone folder is great for making sure that our cardstock base, the score line is nice and crisp. And then we'll bring in, sorry, we need the trimmer again. We'll bring in this piece here. This is going to become our designer paper, and it's a very loud, fun design. You could have this design be the base and have some solid cardstock on the outside to have it pop through like this, just show you like that. Or this could be the part that pops out, which is what we're going to do for this card. So we need to mark our paper. We're going to first cut it down the middle. So it's right on the score line. It's cut at 4 1/4 inches in. We've got a nice white piece of cardstock to use, but this piece here is what we're going to focus on first. And we're going to mark it so it's 2 inches from the bottom right. So it's vertical, and the bottom right 2 inches up and 2 inches in. And if it helps to make those pencil marks on the back side, that's what I'd recommend doing actually. Let's do that. So here's 2 inches, and here's 2 inches, And it doesn't have to be exactly 2 inches. It can be, you know, a little bit off. And it could even be a lot off, depending on your sentiment that you're going to put on the inside. But we're going to cut from this part to this corner and this part to this corner. And again, probably easier to do visually this way. When you've got a sharp corner like that, it's best to have your cutting blade not push against it. So we started from this side and it didn't ruin our cardstock. Okay, we got that piece cut. Now we're going to angle it this way. And now we've really got a point here, so we're definitely not going to come in with our cutting blade in this direction. So you want to be careful of that when you're cutting. Okay, so let's save this piece just in case we want to use it on another project later. In fact, I already see something in my head that I want to use it with. So this is ready to go onto the front of our card, like this. It's going to be a really fun little opening here to our card. You may have seen cards like this before. It's kind of like just it's got a fun little opening channel, and then they've got some sort of embellishment up here. So let's grab the other half of that card. In fact, let's cut first some white for the inside of the card. Actually, let's do the punching first. So we'll punch our daisy really close to the edge here, and then let's see if we can get it between. We may not be able to. Yes, we are. Yes. Okay, awesome. And there. And now we know how much we have left over, so we can trim this off. It's just under 3 inches. And because we've got a little bit of color there, I'm going to go ahead and trim that off. Now, if you like it, you can leave it, I suppose. We're going to go ahead and trim that off. And now we have a layer to go on the inside, although we wouldn't really need it because we do have a very, very light cardstock there. So I've mounted our Hay sentiment, our stamp, on the block here, and we're going to go ahead and ink that up with our Misty Moonlight. Oh, it's a new ink. I'm so excited. Okay, and then before we stamp that down, I want to position these where they're going to go so that I kind of can line up where to stamp. So those will get set there. And we'll set that into the cover. Okay. And that'll get stamped down here. Now with cardstock in colors, I tend to hold my stamp a lot longer just to make sure that the ink is soaked into the more textury surface. The colored cardstock is a little less smooth than the Whisper White, so I just want to make sure that my image is there. Okay, and these pieces will get raised up with dimensionals. Before we do that though, let's just go ahead and look to see what I'm doing. I decided that I needed to punch out one more flower. So we're going to grab that piece that looks like a necktie. Yes, that's where I was going with it. And we're gonna use it. So we're going to punch out one more flower because we have the back side, which is white, and that'll get layered onto here. So we have a nice full flower. We've got our green, which is going to become leaves. So we're going to cut into the piece like this and create some little leaf pieces. You see how I just kind of cut at an angle? So those will kind of get put here and there. This we'll use, of course, because we want to have some gold leaves. Always fun to add a little metallic accent. So let's do a little cut down the middle so that we have this piece to use on one side and this piece to use on the opposite side. Well, you get the idea, right? So that'll get tucked somewhere there. Some green leaves. And then this one I'm going to cut in half. And we're going to sneak parts of it coming from underneath. It's a very 60s looking card, isn't it? The era of the 60s. I don't know. We'll figure out what we're going to do with those. But I wanted to have some extra little flowers coming down. We'll see. Maybe we'll have them together. Maybe they need to go together and just kind of be on one side. Again, I kind of plan as I go. Yeah, I kind of like that better. Like a little flower sticking out. Before we assemble, let's take a dauber. Daubers are kind of like sponges. When I use my sponges, I first cut them in half and then I cut them into thirds, so I have these little wedges. Sometimes I cut them into eighths or whatever, depending on how desperate I am to get sponge wedges. And then, so those pieces become permanently labeled with like a Sharpie marker, or you could staple a cardstock piece onto it or whatever. But daubers do sort of the same thing, except they can kind of more focus on an area in a circular motion. So we're going to bring in pumpkin pie ink, and pumpkin pie is that orange color that is in the kit cardstock, and we'll just get some ink on here and do a little bit of a swirly motion onto our flower. We're going to add some of that crystal effects on top after this is dried just a little bit. We're going to add some crystal effects there so that it is raised up, and we'll have a beautiful little mound in the center of our daisy. Okay, for adhesive, you'll notice that I put the snail adhesive towards the top portions of these two pieces and dimensionals down here. I want the dimensionals to kind of lift the paper, the designer paper, up towards the base. Gotta make sure it's in this corner, the right corner, more importantly. Oh, that's really sticky. Okay, and then this piece, same thing. Start with the lower left. Alright, so that's the look I wanted. I wanted it to flare out and up, and then I put a dimensional on this piece because the dimensionals are down here on the card and off to the side, so this area can have a little bit of a lift here. So we'll put that one there. And then this is flat because I want it to tuck under and kind of have that, the ability to hide a little bit further in the background. And this is what our finished card looks like. I added a couple more of the Forever Gold specialty leaves. I added these little fun embellishments that come in the kit. They're like little asterisks. I cut one in half, so you can see I've got half on one side and half on the other. They're just easy to do. You just snip right down the middle with your paper snips. I've got the fine tip glue in the center of the flower drying, the extra piece of white on the inside for writing what we want to write. And yeah, it's going to be a fun card to give to somebody. Just have to wait for it to dry. There were a couple of products that I shared at the beginning of the video when I was showing coordinating items, and these are our new 2020 through 22 in color enamel dots, and they're really fun to work with. They kind of will work really well with these enamel pieces here. We've also got these 4x6 cards, so when they're folded in half, they're 4x6. They are a Memories and More pack of cards that coordinate with our Flowers for Every Season, our suite that's in the new catalog. So these will be available June 3rd. I'm going to go ahead and use one of these cards along with a coordinating envelope. I love this pack because it coordinates with so many of the colors that are in this kit. So we're going to use this card base. We'll go ahead and fold it and give it a good crease with our bone folder here. I love that there's just this little subtle decoration going around the front here. We're going to bring in this piece from the kit, and we're going to go ahead and round the corners at the, we're going to call this the top. So this is one of our punches. It's our trio punch here. We're going to go ahead and punch those corners so we've got rounded tops. We're also going to bring in a piece of crumb cake cardstock, and in our trimmer it's just a scrap here. We're just going to cut a strip that is a 1/2 inch wide, and we'll then bring in that 1/2 inch circle punch again. This one is leaving, so if you're watching this video before June 3rd, you'll want to make sure that you grab that up if you don't have it yet, because it's an awesome punch. So we're feeding it in from, if I can grab it, we're feeding it in from the outside in like this, and then we're going to bring it to the end and we're going to punch. And it's okay if this got a little mangled at the end, because we're going to cover that up. So now we have a popsicle. It's going to be a very easy card to do. We're going to bring in the twine from the kit. We're going to bring in these enamel asterisks from the kit, and some dimensionals. And then, of course, our ink pad. So let's stamp the inside with the stamp that says "You're Amazing." Flip that cap over. Have it ready to receive the ink pad, so I can just kind of put it down right away. So now I'm going to add the popsicle stick to our popsicle. And add this to the front of the card with dimensionals. I think we need to shift this a little bit. It's a little too long. Here we go. And let's add this little bow with a glue dot. I'm going to roll it just a tad so it's a little bit narrower. On the inside, I'm going to stamp a couple of these star-shaped asterisks in the pumpkin pie. I'm going to add some blue ones nearby. I'm going to add a couple pink dots. And now that I have all my little embellishments on there, the last thing that I want to do is add a little bit of shine. So besides having the fine tip glue, which would do sort of the same thing, we have this thing called Summery Crystal Effects. And it's like fine tip glue, but it has a little like glitter in it or whatever. So we're going to add a bit of shine on the side of our popsicle. So I've opened up the card so it lies really flat for drying. And we're going to start kind of at the upper left and just squeeze out a section of this that starts kind of narrow and forms kind of a wider base as we're coming down. And then I'm going to have just a little separation there and come in and do a little bit more. And now we have a fun little shine. When it dries up, it'll be glossy and sparkly. And there's our finished card. So summery, so fun. So we're going to stick with that popsicle theme, and we're going to do a 12 by 12 scrapbook page spread. We are going to be using up the some of the envelopes in the kit, so I just want to point out that we do have medium-sized envelopes in our online store. So if you wanted to get some of those, that way you can use the envelopes, the very, very pretty envelopes that are in the kit. You just cut them open and you have some beautiful designer paper in there. And these envelopes actually were the ones that triggered the idea for me for popsicles, because they just have that popsicle look to them. So yeah, so just note that we have medium-sized Whisper White envelopes in the online store. We're going to be using a scrap of the crumb cake cardstock. We'll be using pumpkin pie cardstock, the new In Colors, which you can get June 3rd, and some 12 by 12 Whisper White. So let's start by cutting into an envelope. To open up an envelope, the best way is to put the flat end up against the top edge or the bottom edge of your trimmer, and then to slice. And it's best to go into a, into a side. You can go in this way, but it's sometimes, if you don't have a sharp blade, it's better to go in this way. But I do have a sharp blade, so we're going to just trim off the edges. So we'll flip it, and we'll do the same thing over here. And now we can open up that envelope. We're going to trim just inside, so into the color edge of the score line. When you cut on a score line, sometimes, again, if you don't have a sharp blade, you can get frayed edges. So we're just going to cut beyond. So we've got a little bit of orange still left on there. That scrap we will use, so don't have it go away too far. And then we're going to cut along this edge here. Now this is a straight edge, so we just have to line up where the orange and the white meets in that channel. So if we put it right up against the edge of our trimmer and we cut along there, we can cut pretty darn straight. We'll do the same thing to the other side. This is a little bit tougher, so at this point I'd say use the opposite edge of your trimmer, and we'll just bring it down here, do the same thing and slice, and then we can take our paper snips or scissors and we can follow the rest of the edge of that designer paper. Now this doesn't look like a popsicle to me. We're going to round those corners a little bit more, but I'm going to show you a little trick. So first let's just get cut around the edge here. And then we're going to fold our paper together, but not really folding, okay? We're just going to meet up these edges over here and just kind of flatten it down. And once we have that lined up somewhat, we're going to take our snips and we're going to cut together at the same time a rounded corner. If that's hard for you to do, you can take like a bowl and trace it and then do this technique so that you have that rounded edge. And then you just kind of fluff it back out. And now you have that popsicle base. For the handle of our popsicle, this is going to be a little bit wider. We're not going to do a 1/2 inch. We're going to actually do a whole inch. So we'll set it in here, trim it, and then we're going to use the 1-inch circle punch, which is also retiring. I'm so sad they're getting rid of this. We'll pull this end through and we'll chop it, and now we have a rounded bottom on our popsicle stick, and there's our popsicle. To get some shine on this though, we're going to do something a little bit more bright. So what we're going to do is we're just going to flip this over and we're going to trace the edge that we want the shine to come onto. And I want that shine to be right here. So I've traced that, and then I'm going to shift it over just a tad and kind of make it angled. And we're going to trace again. So now we have this band that's wide at the top and narrow at the bottom. It's white on both sides of this envelope piece that we cut out, so we don't have to use the side with the pencil on it. In fact, do you see how I'm tracing that or cutting that? I'm not even following the lines very well. It's more of a guide. I'm going a little bit wider and a little bit narrower. And it just kind of helps guide me because of the curve that we have on this popsicle. Now if we flip both of these over, we now have the non-pencil side, and we can have it like that. We could cut it, we could have that split shine. So, and if that bugs you to have it super stark, you can kind of curve the edges, you know, however you want to do it. But now we have a different kind of a shine on our popsicle. We're going to do that to two others. So we've got a couple other envelope pieces that I've cut out. I haven't quite rounded the corners the way I like them yet, so I'm going to go ahead and fold them together and create more of a curve. And again on this one here, and we'll create a curve here. The next step is to cut a couple squares from 4 of your colors. I'm choosing Pumpkin Pie and Bumblebee and the magenta color and the jade color. And I'm cutting them just under 4 inches. So it's actually 3 7/8 by 3 7/8. And then I'm going to do one more with the Misty Moonlight blue color, the one that matches the ink in our kit. And I've laid those pieces onto one of my 12 by 12 papers already in kind of a little pattern, so that opposite colors, or the opposite corners are the same colors, okay? And this piece will go in here, but we're gonna make this more of a centerpiece. So we're gonna punch into it using our daisy punch. So we are gonna involve some daisies in our page, because why not, right? Daisies and popsicles. So we've punched that out, and now you can see we have a white daisy in the middle of our page. We're going to use our dauber, and we're going to put a center of our daisy in there with our orange ink. We're going to be using the embellishments that came in the kit and some of the enamel dots that you can get that match those in colors. Again, June 3rd. And we're going to start laying this out. It's going to be fun. So I'm finishing up the pages, and I added some of that shimmery crystal effects to these white areas here. So I'm allowing that to dry. I've added that to the center of this daisy. So I'm going to try really hard not to touch those. And then these enamel asterisks and dots, the ones from the kit, and then the ones that you can get on June 3rd. I've also punched out from some more scrap of the Misty Moonlight cardstock another daisy that I just stuck up here. Yeah, and I didn't even have to punch out the whole thing. And then this one was placed down in the lower left corner. So I'm just going to demonstrate here that you can, again, you can trim these in half. So you just cut down the middle. And they're pretty easy to cut. So I'm just going to add one here. And we'll add, I don't know, we'll add one down here maybe. And then I brought in a bit more orange by stamping that image with the pumpkin pie ink that we used here. So we have our finished pages, and you can put photos in these spots here if you want to. They're large enough for photo, which would be great. These are just under 4x4 in size. So I hope you like these page ideas. I hope you like the cards that I shared. They were so much fun to make. I love bright colors. Now that you've watched my video, I hope you can see that there's so much more to these kits than meets the eye. With just a few extra supplies and some imagination, you can go beyond and make so much more with these super affordable kits. I hope you gained some inspiration from what I've shared. Thank you for watching. It builds creativity to think outside the box. Be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you can catch more paper pumpkin videos that I've shared using past kits and more that I'll share with future kits. Also, be sure to visit my website at stampyourartout.com so that you can view close-up photos of these projects, see photos of other paper pumpkin kit ideas in future and past posts, and see many other great ideas that I share using other Stampin' Up! Products. You'll find my direct website link in my description below. You can also explore alternate project ideas on Pinterest, with Google searches, on the Paper Pumpkin Fan Club on Facebook, and through other videos here on YouTube. If you want to get spoiled with extra goodies, gifts, prizes, and extra exclusive Paper Pumpkin project ideas, remember to get your subscription started with me as your demonstrator. I'm Rachel Tessman in Andover, Minnesota. I hope you enjoyed this video tutorial. Now I'd like you all to go and stamp your art out. Bye-bye.